What's up, guys? It's your boy Ruben coming to you. Happy Friday, new week, new video. You know how it is, and you know how I do. This one's for my Jag fans. I'm gonna, try to keep it a little brief. Just want to share some of my thoughts on where we've been, where we're going, what we're doing. And this week we've had a couple things. So, Brandon Linder retired. I'm not too broke up about it. We kind of knew that he was on a chopping block because he was making too much money and he had no guarantees left on his deal. And I want to thank Brandon Linder for everything he's done. I would have preferred to see him on the team, but we knew that we couldn't keep him at that cap number. The money is at this point, of more value than his actual play. But if we could have got him for half that, it would have been great. Unfortunately, that's why Tyler Shatley was kind of a priority. He'll now probably be our center, and he'll do fine. Ben Bartz is probably the left guard right now. We did franchise tag Cam Robinson. Unfortunately, we still have Juwan Taylor. And I say unfortunately because I think Juwan Taylor has been awful. I hope he, is really working on his craft this offseason and surprises us next year, but I don't have high hopes for him. Walker Little, for all intents and purposes, a lot of people think that he can only play left tackle, which puts us in a weird spot because if he can only play left tackle, what are we going to do with Cam Robinson, who's on a franchise tag? So definitely the left tackle spot sold up by him. And I would like to see Walker Little figure out how to play right tackle in a perfect world. I think Brandon Scherff definitely, it's hard to say he upgrades the line when we took so many losses on the line. AJ Cann's gone, Linder retired, Norwell is now a commander. So it's, while immediately Scherff is our best O-lineman, we have a lot of things in flux throughout the rest of the O-line. And the tackle play was so bad last year that I don't know if it's going to matter for Brandon Scherff. So it begs the question on what is the plan, right? Are we really going to draft an offensive lineman? Which in the only scenario I see that makes sense is if they draft like an Evan Neal and either play him at guard or right tackle, which to me doesn't make sense because it's the number one overall pick. You don't draft a guard or right tackle with the number one overall pick. They're not premium positions unless you draft Evan Neal, put him at guard or right tackle with the prospect of him replacing Cam Robinson. And, you have to, I would like to think you would have to have a deal in place or a plan in place to move on from Cam Robinson. But the problem with that is business on one-on-one, you're losing your leverage in that situation because other teams are going to know you're trying to get rid of him and you have a replacement for him. And so it throws off the whole supply and demand, right? And not that there's a whole huge supply of left tackles out there, but Cam Robinson's not particularly a special one. And if they know we got to get rid of Cam Robinson, why would we get max value for him, right? So brings me to something else, okay? Because we also signed Arden Key this week. And a lot of people were happy about it, except for me. And the reason I wasn't happy about it is because I thought it threw the whole situation in flux with the draft. Because it didn't make sense to me that we already have Josh Allen, and I don't care what your opinion is of Caleb Untitled. He was a first-round pick. He was drafted to be the other outside linebacker, edge rusher type, right? Well, you can say, Ruben, that's only two people. Arden Key's just depth. But we're in position to draft the best pass rusher in this draft, which I think they should do. So now you're looking at Josh Allen, Caleb Hutchison, Arden Key, and enter whatever rookie you prefer, Aiden Hutchison or Kayvon Thibodeau, right? So why take the flyer on Arden Key? And and you guys can say, well, you still need depth even with those three. Makes sense. But here's my position, guys. I'm not saying all these guys would come, but Jadeveon Clowney's out there, Jerry Hughes is out there, and Justin Houston's out there. Just to name a few guys, right? My position was if you were going to draft a pass rusher, or not draft, sign one. Why not sign a veteran pass rusher that the young guys can lean on? Because even if he doesn't play, at least they've been there, done that, and can help school the youngins, right? Justin Houston would have been perfect here. And I'm not saying, hey, for all I know, he didn't want to come here. But what about a Jerry Hughes? Jerry Hughes just left Buffalo, and he went to Buffalo when Buffalo sucked, right? And I don't think people are lining up for a Jerry Hughes. I think he would take a contract here in Jacksonville, especially he'll get an opportunity to play his old team, the Colts, twice, right? So you bring a guy in that's had double-digit sacks before, and even if he doesn't play, at least the rookie and Caleb Hutchison can go up to the vet and say, hey, what do you think of this? Or the vet can school them in certain aspects. That's where I was coming from with that. I don't have particularly a beef with Arden Key, except for the fact that he sucked everywhere he's been. He sucked for his first couple years with the Raiders. He had a career year last year, and he still has yet to reach double-digit sack totals for his career, guys. And so, while everybody was so hype about it, I don't have a problem with him as a depth option. I just have a problem with everybody's excitement for him when you consider the fact that his career high was 6.5 sacks, and he was on a stacked defensive line. And if you look at his highlight reel, it's a bunch of sacks against the worst old linemen in the league. You see sacks on the Rams, who need O-line help. Joe Burrow, I think, was sacked. O-line help. Trevor Lawrence was sacked, and we know how bad our O-line was, right? By Arden Key. So I wish the best for Arden Key. I just don't have high hopes for him based on what I've seen. Based on the evidence, don't have high hope for him. I'd rather them invest all that energy in figuring out why the hell Caleb Hutchison can't figure out how to get a sack. I'd rather them do that, okay? And I thought a Jerry Hughes or Justin Houston signing would have helped with that. Those are just my thoughts. But let's fast forward. The draft's coming, okay? We need help everywhere. Weapons, O-line. I just don't think with our current O-line situation, you draft an O-lineman to play guard or right tackle. So I want to say that that's out, even though Doug Peterson had a great O-line in Philly. He might sell out, for all we know, to solidify the O-line. They drafted Lane Johnson in the top 10. Just want to throw that out there, to keep that in mind. Could they draft a wide receiver and surprise everyone? I hope they don't, because this draft is so loaded with wide receiver that I don't think you have to reach in that fashion. But you never know with these offensive coaches. They might see a guy, fall in love with him, and just have visions of what to do with that guy, right? And in this scenario, the only guy I would consider number one overall, if he didn't get hurt, would be Jameson Williams. I'm not drafting a wide receiver, period, number one overall. But Jameson Williams, a lot of people are billing as Tyreek Hill 2.0, and I definitely can't do it off the strength of an ACL. But our GM that we didn't fire, Trent Baalke, has an affinity for drafting guys that have had prior injuries. Albeit, I'm not sure I've ever seen him do it this high in the draft, but you never know. In my perfect draft, guys, and you guys can let me know what you think, I think you get Kayvon Thibodeau with the first pick, and then see who slides. Does Tyler Linderbaum, center, make it to the second pick? Does Jameson Williams fall into the 20s? And in that case, maybe you can move up and pick him up. Just my thoughts. There were several 4-3 guys in there. One of the Ohio State guys might fall down to the first pick in the second round for us. Although I don't love them like a lot of us do, but I think if you can draft a guy with speed and it can make plays after the catch, considering that we run a West Coast offense, it'll go a long way. I love the Evan Ingram signing, the Christian Kirk signing. I didn't love the contract, but I love the signing. I think what we're doing is we're signing guys that can make explosive plays, not necessarily just catching a 9 route. I mean, like, take a slant and maybe take it a distance or make big chunk plays. I think we're looking to try to get more explosive, and I know there's definitely going to be an emphasis on getting Trevor Lawrence help, be it O-line or just another weapon. So my perfect draft will be Kayvon Thibodeau first. A lot of people like Aiden Hutchison, and I went ahead and I took a look, and I've been, studying Aiden Hutchison, Kayvon Thibodeau, and let me tell you why I like Kayvon Thibodeau more than I like Aiden Hutchison. And if you've been following, you know that I think Kayvon Thibodeau can be a superstar, whereas I just think Aiden Hutchison can be very good. I think people are enamored with Aiden Hutchison because he has a lower floor. I don't think people think he's gonna bust, whereas Thibodeau can, and the only reason people think that is because he has such a high ceiling. I think Thibodeau can be a superstar, and typically with those guys, if they don't hit superstar status, they feel like they can completely bust, a la Caleb Chason. Now, I think he's way too talented to be a Caleb Chason in this particular situation. Kayvon Thibodeau is explosive. He's such and what's exciting about him is that he's still raw, but he's so explosive it's jarring. Put the tape on. I'm telling you, I've seen him throw tackles like a rag doll and make the sack, and he's on top of the quarterback like lightning. Okay. Whereas Aiden Hutchison, I've seen the same thing. Don't get me wrong in terms of like tossing a tackle like a rag doll. But what I see it more than anything, I'm a guy that I like to understand the why, right? So Aiden Hutchison had more sacks. He does have more sacks this particular season than Kayvon Thibodeau. But a lot of the sacks I see are second effort sacks. And well, Ruben, why is that a bad thing? It's not a bad thing, but this is part of what people are doing to enamor themselves with Aiden Hutchison in that, oh, he has such a high motor. I personally prefer the guy that is the catalyst for a sack, meaning he beat the tackle badly, got there, and he took over himself. Whereas I seen quite a few sacks where he didn't initially beat his guy. I seen the tackle actually block him out of the play, but then he came back and got the sack. And this is where people, the very thing that people love him for, I kind of knock him for, because you'll see a lot of these sacks. Ojabo on the other side actually gets the pressure first, and Aiden Hutchison cleans it up. I'm not saying it happens all the time, right? But there's plenty of tape out there where you'll see Ojabo kind of push the pocket, or somebody else push the pocket, and Aiden Hutchison, who was either ran out the way or the quarterback would just step. Long story short, Aiden Hutchison didn't win the initial point of contact per se to get the sack on the quarterback. A lot of his sacks were second effort sacks. There are sacks where he threw the right tackle like a ragdoll and went ahead and made the play. But when you factor in the level of talent of tackle he's playing against, and a lot of the sacks I saw were against right tackles at that, where Caleb Chason, I saw move all over the place, and I saw him throw left tackles around. It's just night and day in terms of pure talent and ability. Hutchison is such a clean prospect, but he's not the Bosa's, he's not JJ Watt, either Watt, to be honest with you. Whereas I can see Kayvon Thibodeau, I can see him in that conversation in the future. Hutchison, I can see a situation where he's just very good. Do you guys remember Grant Wistrom, Patrick Kearney, those kind of defensive ends? Those were very good defensive ends. But were they TJ Watt? Were they, who's another one? Were they Myles Garrett? And Kayvon Thibodeau is a notch below those guys. He's not the prospect that those guys were, like Von Miller, like, those kind of guys. But he's right, like he's not far off in terms of just projecting his ceiling. He can be that kind of player. So that's just my thoughts. Kayvon Thibodeau is the kind of guy that can ruin a game for a team. Hutchison, in combination with Josh Allen, can be very good. But do you want the guy that's very good, or do you want the guy that can force the issue? And that's ultimately why I would choose Thibodeau over Hutchison. Those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great weekend. Peace.